Hello, everyone. Welcome along to another week of Nurse Recruitment Insights and Analysis. I hope you're having a great week. And today I'm really excited because I'm going to be sharing our Nurse Retention Report 2023. So, back in August, we surveyed 2,000 registered nurses through social media and also analyzed 10,000 profiles within our database to discover what are the reasons that nurses stay in their job. And I think you'll find the results quite interesting, and they challenge some perceptions that have been previously held and put into practice over the past couple of years. In this video podcast, wherever you're consuming it, I'm going to be going over our main findings, and you can find the report on nurserecruitmentx.com. Just go on to our blog and you'll see it there. So, the headline figure was that 55% of respondees attributed their retention to interpersonal relationships and working environment. So, it wasn't retention bonuses, it wasn't the benefits that came out top, it was relationships and how they feel at work. As I said, we surveyed over 2,000 and analyzed 10,000 data points. And I think we've seen the past year a little bit of a shift away from uh, do or die focus on recruitment to more providers waking up and realizing that we actually need to build our house on a solid foundation and keep the staff that we have rather than filling a leaky bucket. So, in reports such as Becker's Healthcare, I saw a lot of the CEOs and the CNOs were mentioning that they're putting more attention to keeping their nursing staff and how they can do that. So we thought it was timely and pertinent to come out with a report like this. So 34% of respondents attributed primarily their attention to interpersonal relationships of colleagues. So that was talking about how they enjoy working alongside their friends. They wouldn't want to leave that circle for the unknown. And they appreciated their boss, or they had other connections in the workplace. And interestingly, 80% of those respondees who mentioned their co-workers included no other factors. So this really came on strongly whenever we asked what is keeping you in your current job. Then 21% referenced what we kind of clumped together as familiarity. So they talked about the patient population who they wouldn't want to leave, just knowing the procedures and the workspace. And interestingly, the wearingness of the grass being greener, they weren't sure if going elsewhere could improve what they currently have. And I think these two show that a lot of the time you can throw money at things, but nurses are people and they want to feel wanted and they want to feel connected with those that they're working with. And often it's not about the logic of one place paying more or being closer to home. It's how they feel. It's how they feel about their friendships. It's how they feel about the environment, patients. If you can make it feel like home, then you're going to do better nurse retention. Moving on to our other category. So, close behind the familiarity with the working environment was pay and overall compensation, coming in at 16%. And in this, the greatest kind of category was pension. So 32% mentioned pension. And over half of this group also mentioned interpersonal relationships, reinforcing its status as the leading category. I noted that the ones that mentioned pension were often older, and a lot of the nurses who mentioned pay as a driving factor in terms of core compensation were younger. So I think you have to look at the different demographics that you're working with and separate them out by drivers. Younger nurses are going to care more about what they're saying in their pocket at the end of the day, whereas older nurses want a bigger 401k. Now, I think It was particularly striking that the bottom categories are what we have seen a lot of focus on the past couple of years. So 9% brought up insurance plans and other perks. Health insurance was 40% of that. And I think this goes to show that often insurance plans, life insurance, health insurance, marginal perks, flexibility are becoming standard across a lot of organizations. Employers are waking up that you need a great benefit package to attract great people. And seemingly it's losing its impact as a strategy that not a lot of competitors are doing, or at least as a strategy to entice nurses to leave their job. At the bottom, I thought it was worth remarking that only 2% of nurses mention retention bonuses. That's not to say that they are helpful, and I did see comments of nurses saying that they couldn't leave, but I think it's important to consider you don't really want to lock someone in with golden handcuffs because they might quit quietly and stop caring. And they certainly won't be referring their friends or seeing a long term future at your organization. So, when it comes to retention bonuses, our findings were it would be better to put that money into stuff like employee engagement, improving the workspace, creating forums for nurses to spend more time together socially, paying for activities, and more on the social side of things rather than the contractual obligation to continue working somewhere. Again, if you want the full report, you can go onto our website, nurserecruitmentx.com, and visit the blog, and you'll see it there. We wanted to give a few actionable suggestions on this. So, strong bonds with co-workers provide emotional support, camaraderie, and a sense of belonging. And we think these are vital for nurses to overcome the manifold challenges in their profession. We know that burnout is particularly prevalent amongst nurses who are doing a very physical job. It's emotionally draining if they are caring for a lot of people, a lot of sick people, and it's not like other professions. It's hard to be a nurse in 2023. The nurses who responded to this were saying that their friends keep them in it, and I think that shows again how difficult it is. If you can think about sometimes you've had difficulty in your life, who got you through it? It was probably your friends and family. So maybe a siege mentality, uh, we're in it together mentality is what a lot of nurses think, and that's the mindset they're in. In terms of suggestions, now team building activities have been around a long time, and we've seen that if you can involve families, you'll deepen those interpersonal bonds. Regular get togethers help nurses get to know their colleagues. And then mentorship programs, pairing experienced nurses with newcomers, promote knowledge and build relationships. Now, I think it's important to highlight here that people are already doing these two activities, but nurses want it done in a certain way. Encouragement of this togetherness should be worked through nurse ambassadors and staff on the ground. You should be approaching influential team members or more social team members and asking them, we are going to spend money to provide you a better social life within work and encourage bonds between our staff. How can we do that? Where would you like us to see? Where would you like to see us put that budget? It shouldn't be a corporate mandate for people to spend time together. It should be driven by the staff because they're the ones that are going to participate and benefit from it. And if it's coming from them, they'll trust it more. And you really need to take a hands-off approach to this whilst letting the nurses decide how it happens. Keep it fun as well. So 32% of nurses mentioned that it was enjoyable to be with their coworkers and think, how can we foster a positive, enjoyable environment amongst our staff? I've got a quote here from one of the nurses that mentioned interpersonal relationships. So we asked her, what keeps you at your employer? She said, no bullying, co-workers that help each other, friends at work, a boss that respects you, working in an area or specialty you enjoy, and feeling appreciated by patients and families. So a lot of positive feelings at play from positive interactions with staff or colleagues. Another, the co-workers mainly, and more specifically, the culture. Of course, pay, benefits, opportunity for growth. It takes a while to feel like home, but once you stick it out through all the good and bad and end up being one of the ones that has been there the longest, that's where the sweet spot is. So again, camaraderie, getting through this together, and the idea that your team members are there to support you. Curiously, the grass isn't always greener as a phrase popped up a few times. I'll zoom into this. So the category challenges the commonly held two-dimensional view of participation in culture as a subscription interaction with an agreed set of values. Rather, we want to introduce the idea that nurses don't leave a lot of working cultures because they're unsure about finding a better one. So one nurse said, partly loyalty, partly knowing that the grass isn't greener anywhere. There's no perfect place to work. I'm pretty committed to my patients that come in all the time. So you should consider that leaving is a big upheaval for staff and implement policies to make them feel at home. And again, make it easy to form relationships with both staff and residents. I've got another quote here. The effort it takes to make a change and the lack of diverse opportunities in my small community, the good still outweighs the bad. And the important thing about this category is nurses are saying it, so we need to talk about it. The tricky part of it is, what can we really do about it? You can't put a poster saying, the grass isn't always green on the other side. If you stay, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, it's a little bit coercive, to say the least. And I think here it's about making that working environment as pleasant as possible for staff, because whenever they say the grass isn't greener, they're really referring to what their lot is, and where they work is a big part of that in terms of the facilities, the environment, the culture, and what it feels like again to be there. So whenever it comes to interpersonal relations and familiarity, I think the most important thing is to get nurses involved. You can mention the survey, ask them if that's how they feel, and tell them we want you to stay and we want your teammates to stay. How can we improve in these categories? Finally, while pay and benefits were mentioned by a portion of respondents, they did play a secondary role. And this suggests while compensation and benefits packages are, of course, necessary to retention, they're not sufficient on their own to retain nurses. Important part, yes, but they won't keep your staff by themselves. If you think about travel contracts during COVID, paying upwards of $5,000 a week, a lot of nurses went to do them, but a lot didn't, and they stayed for a reason against that potential financial boost. And money isn't the end of the world for a lot of staff. It does help to attract nurses, perhaps more so than it does to retain them. They want to feel wanted at home and part of a work family. The environment is primarily focused on over the dollars that they get. So I hope that you found this useful. Visit our site, nurserecruitmentx.com, to access the full report. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about us, you can send me a message on LinkedIn or book a call through our website. I hope you have a great weekend and good luck with your nurse retention. Thanks for joining.